she's a great gal, and we love to hear what you're doing, Julie Jean, and how you're doing it, and what kind of what it takes to try and make it around the Nashville circuit, and give us some inside scoop and tips and suggestions, and kind of what you're planning to do for the future, and all those kinds of things.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for having me here tonight. I wish I was in Dallas hanging out with you guys, but maybe not even all of you are in Dallas right at this moment because I don't know. On Zoom you can just obviously it can be anywhere. Um, so I lived in Dallas for over 20 years and was a very proud member of the DSA. Actually, I hope that I might still be an honorary member because I am at heart. So
Sure.
I just oh, sure. All right. You're just going to lob that out there. All right.
I can do that.
I have to admit something to you guys. So I had this little thing prepared, and then Harry sent me a text, and he said that this is being recorded tonight. So then I had to go back to my original presentation, and I had to take some CD stuff out of there.
Oh,
So I'll have to tell y'all next time in Dallas those stories. So I'm gonna have to stick to a new version tonight. So I'm meeting. I had to protect the names of the innocent, I suppose you could say. So, but while living there, I mean, I wrote so much. I was writing, I think, maybe even more songs in Dallas than I do here in Nashville. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But it's really where I mean, you guys have so many opportunities for the songwriters in Dallas to be playing shows and playing live and getting your feet wet and getting your new babies, your new songs out there and testing them out and stuff. And I so appreciate all those opportunities because when you go to Nashville, a lot of that changes, and I'm going to get to that in a second too. But I just really appreciate what you guys do, and I just think you're fabulous. So after getting little successes like at the Kerrville Folk Festival and the Wildflower and just some things like that, I started booking a little bit bigger gigs, and that's when I kind of started daydreaming about Nashville a little bit more. Like I just started thinking, I need to go start visiting, kind of see what it's like, and I think more than anything, I just kind of want to see where the bar was to determine if I was even like ready to go. And I don't know, whatever that means, right? Because it's so different for everybody. But I made that 10-hour commute to Nashville once a month for almost 10 years. It was like 9 years and something. And at that time, my daughter was graduating high school. And I probably would have maybe left even before that. But, I wanted to let her finish her high school years and all of that stuff. So literally the day after graduation, I had my bags packed on the porch and I was ready to go. And it was just like, it was so exciting. It was such a neat adventure, but I wanted to see where the bar was. And I had made a bunch of contacts there, but every time I would go, I would feel like, I was getting a little ahead. I was making these connections, and then I would come back home and feel like I was taking 2 steps forward and then maybe 1 step back. And I was just I think really to the point where I was like, honey, I had to convince him too, because I was uprooting the whole family for this dream of mine, right? So I had to, my husband had his own company, so luckily he could transfer and just like remotely work from anywhere. So that was a huge blessing. And my son was already enrolled in school at that time in Nashville. So there was no turning back. Once we got there, we were like, okay, we're gonna do this thing. And also around that time, this is like kind of an important point. I met a hit writer, and he really became my mentor. His name was Tim Johnson. You guys, he wrote like "Do You Believe Me Now," Jimmy Wayne, and like he had like 13 number ones. He was just an amazing person, and he also encouraged me to make the move. So I think that really helped also to kind of convince myself that I was ready to do it. But he took me under his wing. He introduced me to a bunch of people that were, I feel like, were pivotal to having success out there too. Like he introduced me to this incredible demo player, and it was Paul Sykes, and who was, I mean, just incredible musician. But he was working all of my demos, and Tim Johnson is the one who initially introduced us. 10 years later, he was still doing all of my demo work, and he's just an amazing human. And then Tim also introduced me to like administrative people who were super important too, like for sync license stuff that I was getting involved in, and for just all the, the contracts, the copyright, all that kind of stuff. She was and still does a lot of the paperwork stuff for me. So like, he was such a blessing, and there are ups and downs to all of this, because 2 months after I got to town, finally, he got stupid cancer, y'all, and he passed away. And so there it was. I'm in Nashville now, and I'm ready to go. And I felt like, a 5-year-old in the Target who lost their mom or something. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And I'm lost, like, what am I going to do? So I had to pretty quickly find some things to plug into. And these are a few of the things that I did when I first got to Nashville to kind of like start getting some momentum. So I was already a member of the NSAI chapter, but I just switched to the Nashville location, and right away there were workshops, lectures, the song critiques, and most importantly for me, there was every Thursday night a publisher meeting where you could go, and there were 200 people trying to cram into the NSAI, and then you would just cross your fingers and hope you were going to be drawn from a hat, so you could play one verse and one chorus to somebody who would hear your song. And it was exciting, but it was like, I mean, you would go home a lot of nights and having spent hours just waiting and not even get to play your song. So it was intense. It was kind of brutal sometimes. But when they did play it and you got the feedback you were like so hoping for, somehow, I don't know, somehow it seemed worth it. So, and you did feel such a part of it. And even if they didn't play your song, you were hearing, 50 critiques of all these other songs. And so you were, without kind of even realizing, you were learning so much every time you would go there. So it was a really good thing for me looking back. Like, I'm really glad that I did all that. And then another thing I did is I was attending as many of the like singer-songwriter rounds as I could. Some of my personal favorites were like the Local, which is right across the street from the Commodore. If you guys have been to Nashville, probably you have on visits. The Local is a fairly new location, but a lot of great singer-songwriter rounds. And then another one of my favorites is, of course, the Bluebird. But ever since the TV show Nashville came out, it's like very hard to get into the Bluebird. It used to be, you could just a little button on your computer and you get tickets, no problem. But now you kind of have to at 8 a.m. in the morning, you have to be hovering right there on the enter button. You have to be really quick to get those tickets, or know someone who's in around, and then they'll try to get tickets for you too. But it's tricky to get in, but once you are in, it never disappoints. It is just probably my favorite out of all the ones I'm about to mention. But Baird and Lindsay is another really great location if you guys come to town and want there's top level talent. It's a great place. Jeffrey Steele plays there quite a bit, and I mean every time he's up to bat, we definitely go see his shows. They're so inspiring. The ball of energy and his just amazing songs. And then the Listening Room Cafe was the last one on my list that I almost every weekend I'm checking, I'm seeing who's doing the early shows, who's doing the late shows. You start getting really familiar with all the names, and their shows are incredible, and they're the kind of shows that you go home and you just want to go grab your guitar and sit somewhere and try to write. They're just you just get super motivated with those, and the menu is probably the best of listening to. Oh, if anyone hears this recording, but that's just my personal opinion, right? The Listening Room has a great menu, so it kind of makes it that much more of an enjoyable evening. And I've played at all of the above, so those have been like really, really fun to do. Another thing is I played in as many rounds as possible, not just going to see other singer-songwriters, but then playing too. Douglas Corner, which isn't there anymore. I think it closed down during COVID. But that used to be, when I first moved to Nashville, that was a really, really popular open mic. And a lot of my friends would go and play there. And it was every Tuesday night. But I got to meet a lot of songwriters from there. And a lot of those ended up being co-writers later on too. So that was a good place. And then Belcourt Taps was another place I used to play a lot. And that was more of a college hangout. There was a little bit different vibe, and you knew to kind of adjust your set list for what you were going to run into there also. And by doing all the rounds too, you're not only like able to test out all your material, but you get to know who has like the best sound, who like Belcourt Taps had a really good sound guy. And I remember thinking, oh, when I start meeting publishers, this is the place that I'm going to tell them that I want them to see me, because I know that the sound is going to be like spot on. And those were important things to remember later on when I started making all the publisher connections, which I'm about to tell you about too. Let's see. Oh, okay. One of the best things I think that I did was to get involved in what's called speed pitches. And I don't know if you guys have heard of those or if you're familiar with them. It's a meeting where there are 6 publishers, and you pay to be able to play songs. You get 10 minutes one-on-one with each of these publishers. And at first I was very cynical about it, because I was like, I'm not going to pay to have somebody hear my song. That's, right? Is that what you guys would have thought too, right?
Yeah.
But here's why it turned out to be a good idea. When I was commuting, I tried to schedule 6 meetings with 6 different high-level publishers and not have one of them try to reschedule or cancel, or you can't get them all in the time frame that you're going to be in town. And it was just it was a nightmare trying to do that. It was like hurting cats. So this was a way that I could guarantee that I was going to be sitting down with 6 high-level publishers. I mean, Sony, Warner Brothers, like they were big, like people you would really want to get into a room with, you know. And so it was an incredible experience and worth every penny. So I did, and I did it several times. And instead of just going in and using that 10 minutes to just play song after song after song, I would go in, I'd play a song, kind of break the ice, and then try to, you know, make some kind of conversation to where it would be a memorable conversation and just to build a rapport with these guys because what happened is, and I kind of wrote some of my results down here. I ended up having over 100 songs that were on hold at different times by Sony, Warner, Sam Hunt, Chase Rice, Chris Young, and like a bunch more. That now these are all country. So if you're not a country songwriter, this may just not even, you know, be a thing for you. But it was a big deal for me, and it was really exciting. And every time you get a hold, you know, it's like, ooh, you know, you're not supposed to get excited when you get a hold, but come on, you know, right? It's like it's God telling you that you are doing it right and keep going. And it's, you know, you're gonna get that eventual elusive cut. And so I still have over 30 publishers from all those meetings for all those years that I went to. And they are still people who like have given me their personal contact information and saying, hey, send me a song, send me your songs. When you write them, when they're done, when they're demoed, we want to hear them. And that list is probably my most valuable list out of, or my most valuable, like, I don't know, thing that I've got out of all the things, all the steps that I took. And still to this day, like, that's my pitch list. So when you don't have a publisher, when you don't have a pub deal, and you don't have, you know, you're not paying a song plugger to go around town plugging your songs, that list is your lifeline to getting heard. And so it was really important for me, and overstressing it, but it was a good thing to do. One of those publishers that I met, he became a mentor to me. He was like my second mentor really in town. And we had a standing weekly meeting for several years where I would go in and 3 songs on Monday morning. I would go in before his publisher, before his publishing company even opened for the day. He took that meeting with me, and I would go in and I would play my new 3 songs, and the feedback and the information that I got from that person was really, it was really a special relationship for me that I really held in high regard. And we later became really good friends. And so it was all out of those speed pitch meetings. And another thing that came out of the speed pitch meetings was I was approached by a guy who was a manager, but he wanted to produce a record for me. And I had been looking for a producer, but I didn't want to just do, you know, a vanity project because there's 1,000 producers in town who will say, sure, I'll make your record. Give me $20,000. Let's go do it. So I didn't want to go that route. I wanted to have someone who was actually like interested in my sound in my songs and my music. And so this producer ended up being my manager for about almost 2 years. And he would book me on all these incredible rights. And it was great that he was a producer because his end goal was to produce my record. And so he would set me up on rights where with people I would never have even been able to get into a room with on my own, like people who wouldn't return an email from me. He was picking up the phone and saying, "Hey, I need you to write with this new girl in town. Her name's Julie Jean, whatever." And so the first one of those rights he set up was with Bill Barton. And I know you guys might know Bill because he's played at like Fort David's before. He played with Lori McKenna. They did a show out there, and but he's with Liz Rose with her publishing company, who wrote all those songs for Taylor Swift when she first got started. And so Bill was somebody I had really admired for years. His writing was awesome. And so I walked into the room on our first write, and he says, "I invited a third writer. I hope that's okay." And I'm like, "Of course," and I say no. So in walks Brian White, the I've been watching you, Brian White. And and my husband always says luck is the direct result of hard work, right? But I'm like, what's happening right now? It was just kind of a cool, surreal moment because I that was really kind of my first like major write, I would say. And so got in there. Luckily, I knew to come with at least 3 ideas, and I'm sure I learned that at the DSA to always go to your right with at least three ideas in your back pocket, right? So we wrote a song called "The Next," which is on my on the last album that I wrote. It's one of my favorite songs on that record, and that write was one of the most important days of my journey because about 6 months later, something happened with my manager, and Brian ended up. We talked all about what was going on, and he said, I'm gonna throw my name in the hat to produce your record, and it was just an amazing blessing. And he then became my next mentor, and then my producer, and just my really great friend. And he actually moved a couple miles from where I live now, so it's just been an amazing fun ride and fun relationship. And and he turned out to be just an incredible producer, which I didn't even know he produced records at that time. I was just I assumed he was just a writer and just a writer. You guys know what I'm talking about. So after all these co-writes, the record was done, and then wham, like COVID. The world shuts down. The distillery tour we had meticulously planned because the whole record was about whiskey, and there were a bunch of drinking songs on it. It was just such a fun record. And anyway, that all just nope. So that's the roller coaster of all the stuff that I was talking about earlier. What do? You pivot and you just try to adjust, and you just wait it out. So and after all the work and time and money and everything spent on doing that record, I made the decision. I didn't just want to lob it out there and stick it on Spotify and then just move on. I just felt like that work deserved a little bit better than that. So I held on to it, and it has not been released yet. So I do have plans and plans for it. And I'm going to be putting those plans in motion pretty soon. But you know, I just wanted to do it right. So in the meantime, you know, at this point now, I have enough songs for the next, you know, 3-4 records, because when COVID hit, all the, you know, all the Zoom writing and all the solo writing, just the songs just started stacking up. And now now the problem is going to be, how do you narrow it all down to decide what you want on your next project? So, and Brian will be producing my next record too. It was such an amazing experience with him the first time. So I know that we're going to be doing it again in the not too distant future. So, and I did do a release. I did do a CD release party on that record, because we thought we were going to release it. So then I did it in Dallas at Fort David Pub, and that was incredible. I just felt like I wanted to release it in Dallas. It was important to me, and then we did another, you know, release here in Nashville too, but Dallas was the first. So I have a lot of do's and don'ts. If you guys want me to keep going, and
Yeah, we would love to hear the do's and don'ts. That's good stuff.
okay, and these are my humble opinion do's and don'ts. And you know, you know what they say about opinions. Okay. If somebody tells you that you don't need a great demo, and that if your song is really good, a publisher will be able to hear through it, and they'll be able to just recognize it's a good song. I think that is completely false, and here's why. It's like, well, in my opinion, if you have $1,000, let's say, in a budget, and you had the choice of making 2 just killer guitar, vocal, harmony demos, and you could get on SongU or a pitching platform like that, and you could pitch these amazing songs and get them into like top publishers' ears, who could then pitch to their artists, versus you have that $1,000 and you take your 2 songs that are great songs, but they are on your phone as a scratch demo, and their voice memo recorded, and you just have heard from so many people that they're going to be able to hear through it. And instead you spend that $1,000 on a plane ticket to Nashville. Like, you would not believe how many people would choose the latter, and you would have so much more success and more bang for the buck if you had those amazing songs, because your songs are worth it. And then once you get a cut that way, then they're going to listen to your next songs in a different way. You're going to have just an open invitation with those people to be able to present your song in a less expensive style. And I'm not even saying take a demo and put all these bells and whistles on it and make it just like explode. That's so crazy expensive too. But that's just my 2 cents on which way to go with that. And everybody has a different budget, but I just feel like that makes sense to me, and I wish someone had told me that sooner. Here's another controversial. So in Nashville, there's every genre of music, and most people do assume it's just country. And I mean, country is different than it used to be, but here's the thing, okay? There's 2 types of songwriters when it comes to country songwriting. There's the ones who they dwell in the past and they come explain about how it's just not even country anymore, right? I mean, I'm guilty of that. I've said it myself. But there's those who embrace the change and they're still getting the huge hits. And even though the music might not sound the same, it is still considered by the country fan base to be country. And so my advice is if you want to stay current and get hit songs, you have to write for the current artists. And if hits are important and it's just and you're not interested in like in the money side of songwriting, then this particular point is kind of irrelevant. But because people don't just write to get a hit song; they write for therapeutic reasons, or they write just because they can't not write, or a million other reasons. But I'm just talking like commercially. I mean, throwback country is my personal favorite, and but if I wanted to make a publisher happy, I know that I can't show up with songs where they don't have anyone to pitch them to. And there are a couple exceptions and niche artists who intentionally stayed kind of with that old vibe. And they have great loyal fan bases, but they're definitely the exception to the rule. And I've just seen some songwriters who, especially the old school type, who really want country to be what it used to be. And my heart is with them, and I get it. But that's an important distinction that I definitely see happening in Nashville. And the ones who are still writing for those current ones, they're still getting hits. And I thought that was important to mention. Here's another one. Okay. Co-writing, obviously, you hear this all the time. It's cliche even by now. Co-writing is the Nashville handshake, right? And collaboration is not something that I did a lot of in Dallas. I would say I did more solo writing there. And honestly, even after all this time, and even after being here, I still prefer to write alone. It's just there's a ritual to it. You're gonna pour that coffee or wine, and you're gonna find just the right spot to hunker down and just deep dive into your mind with no compromising. It's wonderful, right? But I also believe that my songs are more genuine and kind of streamlined and honest when it's coming from one brain, one heart. But if you are looking for that publishing deal, then, or if you think you want one, collaboration it's almost a necessity. And here's why: is when you write with writers who have publishing deals, your co-writes are then pitched by their publisher, right? Now you have a chance to get a cut, or at least to know it's being heard by somebody who can move your song forward. But it's also the very reason why it's challenging to get a co-write with a hit writer, because they know you don't have a way to pitch your song necessarily. So also if the song that you wrote with that person gets cut, they have to give their publisher a cut, but you don't. You get to keep all of yours. So it's just, when two writers both have deals and they're getting twice the chance of getting their songs cut, it's just that's why writers typically only write with other writers who have pub deals in Nashville anyway. And I know there's lots of exceptions to that too. And there's lots of reasons you would want to collaborate too. If you were more of a lyricist and your partner or your collaborator is like all about the melody, or they're a great guitar player, or they do tracks, or there's a bunch of exceptions. But I'm just kind of talking about why you would want to co-write in Nashville, and why it might be challenging to write with. That's why it's hard to get in the room with those hit writers. And again, that was what the speed pinchers were doing for me. They were helping me to get in the room with people I probably wouldn't have otherwise otherwise been able to get in there with. Another thing is if there's a young artist that you're working with or writing with, sometimes like they can get traction through like social media or, and that's another way to kind of get in the room if they've had some kind of viral explosion or something. Like a hit writer will be like, oh wait, what did you say? How 2 million views? Sure, all right with you, come on in. So it's just, there are other little loopholes, tricky ways to get that done, but okay. This tip might be pretty obvious, to not test your new material out in a really coveted venue out there. There are like so many places to play. There's coffee shops and there's all these little cute little listening rooms and stuff. It's like once you let me see here. I want to get this right because you only get a few chances. You get a few chances for a first impression before people start remembering your name. And let's see here, a couple more things. Be persistent, positive, and try not to get discouraged by feedback. And that is so hard to do. If only 1 or 2 people mention something about your song, it might not be even anything to worry about because, everybody's got opinions, right? But if you've had several people kind of ganging up on your song, just don't be afraid to do a rewrite or take a hard look at what they're saying. Is feedback is not something I'm great at taking, or I wasn't at first. I kind of had thin skin at first, and I was like, what do you mean you don't like my song about horses and rats, So it took me a little while to like be okay with hearing that and doing something about it, I guess. And so I'm just gonna say I'm sharing all this stuff with you, and I hope that I'm hoping that it's inspiring and it's not discouraging, because Nashville it's so fun. It's a music mecca. It's an amazing town, and I'm so grateful that I made the decision to just come here and just immerse myself into this craziness. And I loved almost every minute of it. But the DSA was such an awesome springboard for all of the stuff that I'm doing, and I'm really grateful. And which is one of the reasons that I'm here tonight. I can't stress that enough. So I just wanted you to know that all of you have really had an impact on me and made my journey, just that much sweeter. So.
Well, Julie, Jean, you have been very illuminative tonight. I've heard some things that I've heard before, and I've heard some things I haven't heard before. So it's all good, and we love to see success stories, and you're having some success. I'm not sure where you plan to take your success, if you're planning to be another Dolly Parton or
There will never be another Dolly, right?
But do you think you've got some chances to get some cuts? I mean, you've got a lot of holds. I know that means that somebody's get set aside. They don't want anybody else to look at it until they make a decision. So where does that process lead to when you have all these on hold? And what happens with those?
So they're on hold usually for, most of mine, they're you don't ever hear. They put you on hold and they say, we wanna look at your song. Chris Young really likes it. He really thinks that this might go on his next record. And so we're going to hold this one. Don't pitch it to anybody else. And so you get all excited, and then you wait and you wait, and then his album comes out, and then it's not on the album. You're like, so, but sometimes they do let you know. That's a more rare occasion. But sometimes in 2-3 weeks, they'll say, hey, we went in a different direction, but we just wanted to let you know, keep sending us your songs. We love your style, or we love your, your heart, whatever it is that they let you down easy with. So I have had a bunch of independent cuts. I had a cut by the Canadian Male Artist of the Year. I had a cut by a band called TNT Duo, and their producer was oh my gosh, he's such a big name. It's gonna just this is recorded forever that I forgot his name. But um, one of the girls in TNT Duo, her she was the backup singer for Sting, and so a bunch of people, like high level people, got involved. Like during the release party, Sting came on the big screen at the city winery and was talking about how much he loved the song that we wrote. And it's just like moments like that, just like, they keep me going. And then, it just, oh, it was Desmond Child. He was the one that produced the record. So like, I'm just skirting around like a bunch of really cool stuff. And it's fun. It's what keeps you going.
Yeah, keeps you motivated, keeps you thinking and looking for new ways to do things,
Yeah.
or do the same things in a new way or whatever. But it just shows how hard it is for songwriters to get a #1 record, and guys that you said has had 13 hit records that you worked with. I mean, but these guys have to write just hundreds and hundreds of songs. Do you know Tom Douglas by any chance?
Oh, we sang a duet together at Warner one day at the grand piano. He was playing Little Rock, and
Yeah.
and he just so happened that day to forget the words to the second verse, and I had been kind of singing along, and so he said, come here, come sit down and sing the song with me. And so we finished the rest of the song together.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean he's had some great hits, Little Rock, and The House That Built Me, of course, was a big one. And he had
Yeah.
another song that was nominated for. He and a co-writer were nominated for an Academy Award. I don't know if they won it, but I mean, but he told me one time he writes 100 songs a year, and if a guy like that's writing 100 songs a year, he's not getting 100 hit, no, 100 #1 songs, but whatever he's done is just been a very small percentage of all the songs he's written. So it's very hard, I'm sure.
They
But
say that even all the hit writers, that 5% of the lifetime of their work is actually those number ones.
well, I mean, 5%, that's probably doing pretty good.
Yeah, I would think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, keep at it, keep at it.
Oh, I
Um,
am. I can't stop.
do we have some other questions? Anybody have any other ideas or suggestions or song they want to run past Julie Jean? Maybe she maybe
Yeah,
she knows somebody that might like to hear it.
I'd love to.
Hi, Julie. Early on, you were a keyboard player, and are you now a guitar player mostly?
Well, this is Guitar Town for sure. And I feel like, so I was classically trained on piano starting at like 4. And so that really is my main instrument still when I'm writing. But guitar is just kind of a necessity out here. And so I picked it up quite a bit later than piano, but I'm so glad I did. I mean, a lot of the places that you get drawn into here too are all guitar pulls. And you'll be at some songwriter's house and they'll whip a guitar out and they'll be passing it around the table. And I remember the first time that ever happened to me, I was just like, oh, play my song. And it just really like, it's like, oh my gosh, I have got to figure this out. And so my dad bought me this guitar, and I just, sat in my room for 8 hours a day until I could play at least, my 5, 6 chords, and then I just kind of expanded on it from there. But and I took lessons off and on too, for like specific shows or things that I was doing. I would just try to, kind of like I remember taking some additional lessons before the wildflowers so I could add a few little licks or tricks that needed up my sleeve. But I really, I really love the guitar now, and I'm just hooked on it. And like I said, when you go to like even the Bluebird, or you go play somewhere, there was also the hassle factor of, oh, are they going to have a keyboard? Is it going to have a transpose key? Is it going to be, do I need to bring my own? Does that come through?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, this is just crazy. I've got brand new strings on this old guitar, but I'm still singing about broken hearts. Yeah, I'm wearing out this minor key, working on getting over you and me. I could burn your pictures, tear up letters, get me a good clean break. Like a social, so I don't know when you've been on a date. This goodbye's been coming on way too damn long. So tonight I'm letting go, holding on. I tried to just ignore the hurt. Getting over you is so much work. Maybe I'll go out and meet someone new. Looks like that's what worked for you. I could burn your pictures, tear up letters, get me a good clean break. Block your social, so I don't know when you've been on a date. This goodbye's been coming on way too damn long. So tonight I'm letting go, holding on. So don't bring up the past. Don't try to kiss me like that. We ain't gonna start this fire back up with that old match. But I could burn your pictures, tear up letters, get me a good clean break. Like a social, so I don't know when you've been out too late. This goodbye's been coming on way too damn long. So tonight I'm letting go, holding on. Tonight I'm letting go of holding on. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
I hope the sound was all right for you. I just couldn't tell. So.
Well, your voice came through great.
Oh well, that's.
Still need to turn on the guitar, but we got the idea. Good, a good song.
You still got it, Julie Jean.
She still got it. That's the Julie Jean we remember.
Well, thank
Well,
you.
thank you so much, Julie Jean. We really appreciate you being here. You've been very informative and entertaining, and
Much. Good luck to all of
we love that you love Nashville and you're there. That's great.
Good luck to all of you all and all of your songs. I hope it takes you exactly where you want to go with all of them. And I look forward to the next time that I see you guys.